The events of 9/11 sent a wave of shock and disbelief across the entire world, while the deadliest modern attack to take place on US soil affected virtually every aspect of American life in the aftermath. Perhaps nowhere were the changes more immediately apparent than in the world of entertainment. For example, the popular and well-made long-form trailer for Sam Raimi's Spider-Man was immediately pulled from theaters due to its prominent use of the Twin Towers in its final shot. Also, the Arnold Schwarzenegger vehicle Collateral Damage, with an opening sequence depicting a terrorist attack in Los Angeles, was pushed 4 months back from its scheduled release date of October 5th, 2001. Even the producers of children's shows were forced to quickly examine their upcoming episodes, an entire backlog for potentially psychologically damaging material. Plenty of changes were made and episodes dropped for very strange reasons. So today, we're going over 11 episodes of children's shows affected by 9/11. Flying Dupes, TALESPIN. The Disney series TALESPIN was set in the fictional world of Cape Suzette and focused on the adventures of Baloo the bear, who in this incarnation is a bush pilot operating for a freight business. The rousing action and humor kept kids glued to the TV in the early 90s, but was cancelled in 1992, and, at least on Disney Channel, its final episode only aired once. In the episode Flying Dupes, Baloo is given a package which he thinks contains a cuckoo clock to deliver to the leader of a neighboring country as a gift of goodwill. Unbeknownst to him, the package actually contains a bomb planted there by weapon manufacturers in order to hopefully provoke a war. Disney immediately pulled the episode due to its theme of terrorism, but it continued to air periodically on Disney XD, which was likely a mistake, and on other smaller outlets like Canada's Family Channel. Since September 11th, the episode has not seen the light of day on any broadcast network, and Disney would certainly just like everyone to forget that it ever existed.
The City of Frownsville, Powderpuff Girls. The Season 6 Powderpuff Girls episode The City of Frownsville introduces the villain Lou Gubrious, a very punny name on a villain whose only power is the ability to cry a ridiculous amount of tears due to his overwhelming sadness. Displeased at the sunny residents of Townsville, he turns a device on them which switches out his own sadness with the happiness of all of those around them, almost resulting in disaster for the town. With the citizens crying enough tears to flood the entire area, they are saved only when Lou Gubrious slips on a banana peel, the most reliable of sight gags, causing all of the residents to break into laughter once again. Perhaps fittingly, this was the first episode of the show to air after the 9/11 attacks. Although no changes were made to the storyline itself, the producers thought it fitting, in light of the episode's themes of sadness and laughter, to add a slight addendum to the credits dedicating the episode to all of those who had lost their lives in the days prior.
Door to Door, Invader Zim. The short-lived but much-loved Nickelodeon series Invader Zim was an effort by the venerable Kids Network to produce content for a slightly older demographic. The story of an elementary school student who happens to be an alien bent on conquering the world. The series was cancelled due to weak ratings in 2002, before its second season, which was completed at the time of cancellation, even had a chance to air. These episodes eventually made their way to Nicktoons in 2006. The first season episode Door to Door was the first one to air after the attacks. In it, Zim takes part in a candy selling drive which promises a secret prize to the winner. When he's unable to sell even a single candy bar, he adopts a new sales tactic, forcing virtual reality headsets onto his customers to show them a vision of a worldwide devastation that will ostensibly result if they don't buy his candy. This included the implied destruction of New York, suggested by the Statue of Liberty shown floating in the water. The episode was originally slated to air on September 14, 2001, but amazingly, the entire remainder of the season was pushed back over 6 months because of this one segment. It was heavily reworked, and the offending scene was cut. But even more amazingly, the original uncut version was shown when the show returned on March 29, 2002. Subsequent airings were of the edited version, but the original cut sequence can still be found online.
Mass Transit Trouble, Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Airing in November 1993, this Season 1 episode of Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog has the distinction of being banned from the airways due to concerns over its content, not once, but twice. The first time after the bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City in 1995, and again after 9/11. The episode features Sonic's nemesis Dr. Robotnik actually planting bombs at major transportation centers all around Mobius, the fictional planet that is the series' setting. Although there is no dialing back of the cartoon's signature zany style, it's the type of plot not often seen in American children's programming, even before the Oklahoma City bombing raised the profile of terrorist attacks in the public consciousness. As the series ran its first run syndication in the US, pulling the episode from programming was more logistically difficult than if it had run on a single network. Nevertheless, after having made its way back into rotation in the years following Oklahoma City, it was yanked once again immediately after September 11th, and has seldom been seen since, except of course on YouTube.
Alive and Chicken, Prima Doggy, 101 Dalmatians. The first segment of a 1997 episode of the syndicated 101 Dalmatians animated series actually featured quite an uplifting message for kids, which makes its obviously coincidental use of very familiar imagery extremely unfortunate. In this segment, the pup's chicken friend Spot, through a series of comical misunderstandings, becomes convinced that the human family members are planning to kill her that very night. Unable to convince her otherwise, the pups treat her to a day of living with gusto and conquering her fears, one of which happens to be flying. The pups built her a small plane, teach her to fly it, and set her loose, culminating in a scene which bears a very striking visual resemblance to the image we have all seen of the second plane approaching the South Tower before striking. Spot crashes into a windmill, and then falls into some stacks of flour, resulting in a smoky explosion, which she is sure has killed her. It's only when the pups reveal all the misunderstandings leading to the situation that she is able to come away with the admirable lesson to live every day with passion and courage. However, Disney pulled the entire episode, including the unrelated second segment Prima Doggy, from all of its broadcast affiliates in the wake of the attacks. It is officially counted as a banned episode by Disney to this day, although it still survives online.
The Secret of the Ruins, SPYCHANGERS to the Rescue, Transformers, Robots in Disguise. Debuting in 2001, Transformers Robots in Disguise was the first incarnation of the property to be produced in Japan and overdubbed for Western audiences, which explains its animation style. Known as car robots in Japan, the series was plagued with a variety of problems and ran for only 6 months, perhaps owing to the unfortunate timing of its debut. The first episodes were aired between September 8th and September 14th, 2001, and many of these were subsequently pulled for redubbing or editing. Notably, Episode 4, SPYCHANGERS to the Rescue, was redubbed, several plot points changed, and several shots cut to omit scenes of civilians fleeing from destruction and a truck exploding after being hit with a weapon. The original English version aired only once on September 13th. The series took a hiatus after Episode 5 and did not return for over a month, presumably to allow for rejiggering of completed episodes containing sensitive material. The first episode to air after this hiatus, The Secret of the Ruins, had been heavily modified from its original version, which depicted Megatron and his Predacon army causing wide-scale destruction within the city. Unlike SPYCHANGERS to the Rescue, which has since been uploaded to YouTube, the original English version of this episode has never been released in any form.
Shriek of the Vulture and the Final Nightmare, Spider-Man the Animated Series. Season 2 of the acclaimed Spider-Man animated series contained an overarching story arc called Neogenic Nightmare, which was itself a mishmash of several famous storylines from the Amazing Spider-Man comics. The story arc saw the introduction to the series of such characters as the Punisher, Blade, and Adrian Toomes, also known as the Vulture. One of the climactic moments of the entire season is featured in both of the 2 final episodes, Shriek of the Vulture and the Final Nightmare. Spider-Man is drawn into a trap by the Vulture, who immobilizes him inside a skyscraper which is rigged to explode. Flash Thompson comes to Spidey's rescue, and the two are able to escape before the building blows up, rendered as a smoky blast coming from the building's upper floors. The episode originally aired in 1996. but were pulled outright after the attacks, leaving season 2 without a conclusion. The ban remained in place for 6 years, until Toon Disney aired the series in its entirety as part of a New York's 2007 marathon.
RANSIK Lives, Power Rangers, Time Force. Power Rangers Time Force aired its 40 episodes between February and November of 2001. In another case of inopportune timing, the series, which heavily featured giant robots and monsters fighting each other, causing massive amounts of destruction, was completely re-edited after 9/11, leaving practically none of the episodes in their original form, according to its head writer. Even the show's opening, which featured a robot standing atop 2 eerily familiar twin skyscrapers, had to be reworked. In addition to a blanket ban on scenes of destruction involving tall buildings, which necessitated a heavy last-minute edit of the series finale, one episode in particular was singled out for a chilling reason. The 4th episode, RANSIK Lives, featured the time-traveling mutant villain RANSIK delivering a very terrorist-like televised speech intercut with scenes of buildings being blown up. In the edited version, the show's theme song is simply played during the speech, and the offending shots were changed to instead show the destruction of mountains. Perhaps due to the additional expense involved in the extensive re-edits, the show was cancelled just 2 months after the attacks. While it was rumored that the original masters had been destroyed, it was announced in 2015 that a box set with all 40 uncut episodes would be released, and a multitude of clips are available online.
Tentacool and Tentacruel, Pokemon. Aired in 1997, Tentacool and Tentacruel was the 19th episode of the Pokemon anime, a juggernaut of a series which has produced nearly 1,000 episodes. Several of these have been pulled at various times for various reasons, but this one also happens to have been pulled on 2 separate occasions. The episode involves Ash and his friends trying to get rid of some tiny nuisance Pokemon called Tentacool. After a confrontation with them, an unfortunate turn of events causes one to evolve into a giant Tentacruel, 100 times the size of the smaller creatures, which begins attacking the city. After 9/11, this episode was pulled because of the buildings being destroyed by Tentacruel's rampage, and they were deemed to be too visually similar to the terrorist attacks. Strangely, although it made a brief return only after a year or so, it was pulled again in August 2005, in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, due to a different scene during the same rampage depicting a city underwater.
Just One Bite, SpongeBob SquarePants. Even SpongeBob SquarePants was not immune to this effect. Although it was only one short sequence in one episode that was trimmed, and an official explanation was never given by Nickelodeon. In Season 3's Just One Bite, Squidward's professed hatred of Krabby Patties is immediately reversed when he actually tries one, which he feels he must hide in order to save face with SpongeBob. Sneaking into the Krusty Krab in the middle of the night to sneak some patties, he triggers a burglar alarm, which happens to be 2 buckets of gasoline triggered by matches, exploding one after the other. It's a silly slight gag of the type employed by cartoons since time immemorial, but the sequence was notably missing after its first airing, which occurred on October 5, 2001. The episode's timing is as good a reason as any for the scene's absence. Oddly, subsequent airings appear to be of 2 different edited versions, one which deletes the scenes altogether, and one which retains the first but not the second much larger explosion.
Episode 3981, Sesame Street. The well-loved children's education series Sesame Street debuted its 33rd season on February 4th, 2002. Titled Elmo Visits the Firehouse, the episode was produced specifically to help children process and deal with scary and mysterious events, like the one that had occurred just months earlier. In the episode, Maria and Elmo must evacuate Hooper's store when a fire breaks out, though no actual flames are seen, only smoke. Traumatized by the smoke, chaos, and flashing lights, Elmo never wants to visit the store again, until a friendly firefighter offers to take him to the firehouse, gently explaining to him that firefighters are there to help and are always ready for an emergency. By using the show's most vulnerable character as an audience surrogate and a more relatable event in place of a national tragedy, the show was able to walk children through the process of dealing with a traumatic event, and to let them know, through Elmo, that it's okay to feel safe. At the episode's conclusion, even though it aired on a Monday, a full credits scroll was seen. At the end was a still, which gave special thanks to the City of New York, the New York Fire Department, and specifically Engine Company 58 and Ladder Company 26, both units of first responders who participated in the making of the episode.